The plasma cannon's final shot tore through Zara's left wing, sending golden feathers spiraling through the crimson sky of Kepler 442b. She crashed into the crystalline outcropping with bone-crushing force, her massive frame carving a deep furrow in the alien soil. The 7-foot-tall Nephilim warrior tried to push herself up, but her strength was failing. Blue blood seeped from dozens of wounds across her alabaster skin, and her remaining wing hung at an unnatural angle. Above her, the sleek vessels of the Galactic Coalition circled like vultures. She had fought alongside these beings for 3 centuries, had bled for their causes, had saved countless worlds from the Void Swarm's relentless advance. Now they watched her die with cold indifference. "Target neutralized," came the voice through the Coalition's open channels. Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian fleet, his insectoid mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "The traitor has fallen." Traitor. The word burned worse than her wounds, all because she had refused to execute the human prisoners on Proxima Station. All because she believed mercy was strength, not weakness. The Coalition had branded her a rogue element, a threat to their new doctrine of total warfare. The same beings who had once called her their greatest champion now celebrated her downfall. Zara's enhanced vision caught movement in the distance. A small craft, definitely not Coalition design. It moved erratically through the debris field, dodging energy blasts from the circling warships. The ship was primitive by galactic standards, held together with what appeared to be salvaged parts and stubborn determination. Human-made. The craft touched down 50 yards from her position, kicking up a cloud of orange dust. The Coalition ships immediately focused their fire on it, but the pilot was skilled, using the rocky terrain for cover. Zara watched in growing amazement as a figure emerged from the battered vessel. It was a human male, tall by their species' standards, but still dwarfed by her massive frame. He wore a patched flight suit and carried a medical kit that looked ancient compared to Coalition technology. His brown hair was streaked with gray, and his weathered face bore the scars of someone who had seen too many battles. What struck her most was his eyes. They held no fear, only grim determination. "Stay down!" he shouted over the energy blasts, scorching the air around them. "I'm getting you out of here!" Marcus Chen had been a combat medic during the Human Coalition War, back when humanity was still fighting for recognition as a sentient species. He had seen enough death to last 1,000 lifetimes, had patched up soldiers from dozens of different worlds. But he had never forgotten the day a Nephilim warrior had pulled his unit out of a Void Swarm ambush, carrying 3 wounded humans to safety while her own forces retreated. That warrior's name had been Zara. The irony wasn't lost on him that he was now the one doing the rescuing. His ship's sensors had picked up her biosignature 3 hours ago, along with the Coalition bounty beacon. Every civilized species in the galaxy was hunting her now, eager to claim the massive reward for her capture. Every species except one. Humans had a saying, "No one left behind." It was a principle that had cost them dearly during their integration into galactic society, viewed as naive and inefficient by their more pragmatic neighbors. But Marcus had learned something the other species hadn't. Sometimes the right thing to do was also the stupidest thing to do. He slid down the rocky slope toward Zara's position, energy bolts searing the air inches from his head. Her golden eyes tracked his movement, wide with disbelief. In all her centuries of life, she had never seen such reckless compassion from any species. The human was risking everything for someone the entire galaxy had condemned. "Why?" she whispered as he reached her side, his hands already moving to assess her injuries. "Why would you do this?" Marcus looked up at her. His hands steady despite the chaos around them. "Because 3 years ago on Rigel 7th, a certain angel pulled my squad out of hell. Figured it was time to return the favor." Recognition flickered in her eyes. She remembered now. The small group of human soldiers trapped in the Void Swarm's feeding pit, their desperate radio calls as the creatures closed in. She had disobeyed direct orders to retreat, swooping down alone to evacuate them. The Coalition had disciplined her for it, called it an unnecessary risk for inferior beings. "That was you," she breathed. "Corporal Marcus Chen, 3rd Human Auxiliary," he confirmed, injecting a stim pack into her neck. "And right now we need to get moving before those Coalition bastards decide to glass this whole area." The medical supplies were crude by Nephilim standards, but Marcus worked with practiced efficiency. He couldn't heal her wings or restore her full strength, but he could stop the bleeding and give her enough energy to move. Around them, the Coalition ships continued their bombardment, but they seemed reluctant to risk killing a human civilian. The political ramifications would be messy. "My ship's not much to look at," Marcus said, helping her to her feet. "But she's fast, and she's got tricks these Coalition fools never dreamed of. Human engineering might be primitive, but we make up for it with creativity and sheer bloody-mindedness." Zara leaned heavily on his shoulder, amazed at his strength. Humans were supposedly one of the weaker species, but Marcus supported her weight without complaint. Together, they made their way toward his ship, energy blasts, creating a deadly light show around them. "There's nowhere in the galaxy you can take me," Zara said. "The bounty on my head will follow us everywhere. You'll be branded a criminal for helping me." Marcus grinned, and for a moment he looked decades younger. "Lady, I've been branded a criminal by so many governments I've lost count. Besides, I know a place the Coalition will never think to look. A place where being different isn't a crime, where helping someone in need isn't considered weakness." They reached his ship just as the Coalition forces decided to risk a direct assault. Marcus practically threw Zara into the passenger compartment before diving into the pilot's seat. The engines roared to life with a sound like controlled thunder, and suddenly they were airborne, weaving through the deadly crossfire with impossible grace. "Where are we going?" Zara asked, watching the Coalition ships fall behind them as they broke atmosphere. Marcus checked his navigation console, plotting a course that would take them far from the shipping lanes and patrol routes. "Earth," he said simply. "We're going home." As they jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Coalition fleet behind, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced in decades: hope. This single human had done what entire fleets had refused to do. He had chosen compassion over profit, courage over safety. Perhaps there was still honor left in the galaxy after all. The journey would take them through the most dangerous regions of space, pursued by bounty hunters and Coalition forces alike. But for the first time since her fall from grace, Zara believed she might survive. More than that, she might find a purpose worth fighting for again. In the depths of space, a fallen angel and a stubborn human raced toward an uncertain future, bound together by an ancient code that said no one fights alone. The pursuit began 12 hours after they left Kepler 442b. Marcus watched the scanner display with growing concern as 3 distinct signatures appeared on their tail: Coalition hunters, Zephyrian mercenaries, and something else entirely. Something that made his blood run cold. "Void touched," Zara whispered from the co-pilot seat, her enhanced senses detecting what his instruments could only guess at. "They've sent Void touched after us." Marcus had heard rumors about the Void touched, former Void Swarm victims who had somehow retained their sanity while gaining the creature's abilities. The Coalition used them for their darkest work, missions too terrible for regular forces. If they were involved, this had escalated beyond a simple bounty hunt. "How many?" he asked, adjusting their course toward a nearby asteroid field. 3 ships, maybe 30 individuals." Zara's voice was steady, but Marcus caught the tension beneath it. "They'll never stop hunting us. The Void Touch don't understand mercy or surrender." The first attack came as they entered the asteroid field. Plasma bolts carved through space around them, superheating the ancient rocks into molten slag. Marcus threw his ship into a spiraling dive, using his intimate knowledge of human physics to execute maneuvers that should have been impossible for his craft. "How are we still in one piece?" Zara asked, gripping her restraints as they rolled between two massive asteroids with meters to spare. "Human stubbornness," Marcus replied, sweat beading on his forehead. "We build things to last, and we fly like we've got nothing to lose." He pulled hard on the controls, sending them into a vertical climb that would have torn apart most coalition ships. Plus, I may have made some unauthorized modifications. Behind them, the void-touched ships followed with relentless precision. They didn't need to match Marcus's acrobatics. They simply waited for him to make a mistake. But they had underestimated human ingenuity and a lifetime of flying death traps through hostile space. The chase continued for 6 hours, winding through the asteroid field and into the nebula beyond. Marcus pushed his ship harder than he had ever dared, the engines screaming in protest. But slowly, impossibly, they began to pull ahead. The void-touched were better pilots and had superior ships, but they couldn't match the desperate creativity of a human with everything to lose. Finally, as they broke free of the nebula, Marcus allowed himself to hope they had lost their pursuers. The scanner showed empty space ahead, and Earth's coordinates beckoned from the navigation display. They were still 3 days out, but they had a chance. That's when Zara screamed. The void-touched hadn't given up. They had simply taken a shortcut through dimensions humanity couldn't even perceive. One of their ships materialized directly in front of them, weapons already charging. Marcus had a split second to react before the plasma cannons fired. He did something no sane pilot would attempt. He killed the engines and fired the emergency retro thrusters, sending his ship into an uncontrolled tumble. The plasma bolts passed harmlessly overhead, while they spun like a leaf in a hurricane. Zara was thrown against her restraints with crushing force, but she didn't cry out. She was watching Marcus work, seeing the intense concentration on his face as he fought to regain control. This was what humans called flying by the seat of your pants, pure instinct and reflexes honed by a lifetime of impossible situations. It was chaos given form, and it was beautiful. They avoided the first salvo, but the void-touched ship was already turning for another pass. Marcus managed to stabilize their spin and restart the engines, but their speed was too low. They wouldn't be able to outrun another attack. "Get me to the weapons console," Zara said, unbuckling her restraints despite her injuries. "You can barely stand," Marcus protested. "I don't need to stand to fight." Her golden eyes blazed with determination. "I may have fallen from the Coalition's grace, but I'm still a Nephilim warrior. And I still remember how to kill." Marcus helped her to the small weapons station, a cobbled-together array of human and alien technology that looked like it belonged in a museum. Zara studied the controls for a moment, her enhanced mind quickly grasping the system's limitations and possibilities. "Your weapons are pathetic by galactic standards," she said. "Thanks for the pep talk," Marcus muttered, throwing them into another evasive roll as the void-touched ship closed in. "But they're unpredictable," she continued, her hands flying over the controls. "The void-touched have fought every major species in the galaxy. They know how coalition weapons work, how Zephyrian tactics flow, how Rigelian ships maneuver. But they've never fought humans." The void-touched ship fired again, its plasma cannons tracking their movement with mechanical precision. But instead of trying to dodge, Zara fired every weapon they had at once: lasers, projectile cannons, EMP torpedoes, even a modified mining charge Marcus had forgotten he was carrying. The void-touched ship's shields absorbed most of the barrage easily, but that wasn't the point. Hidden among the chaos was the mining charge, its signature masked by the other weapons. It struck their enemy's hull like a sledgehammer, the explosive designed to crack asteroids, tearing a massive hole in their ship's superstructure. "Impossible!" came a voice over the comm channel, cold, mechanical, touched by something alien. "Human weapons cannot penetrate our defenses." "Welcome to humanity," Marcus replied, firing the engines and pulling away from their crippled pursuer. "We specialize in impossible things." But their celebration was short-lived. The scanner showed the other two void-touched ships closing fast, and long-range sensors detected coalition reinforcements only hours behind them. They had won a battle, but the war was far from over. "We need to lose them permanently," Zara said, studying the star charts. "Somewhere they won't think to follow." Marcus looked at the navigation display, noting their position relative to known space lanes and patrol routes. An idea began to form. Dangerous, probably suicidal, but typically human in its audacity. "I know a place," he said slowly, "but you're not going to like it." "Where?" "The Sol system. Not the outer colonies or trading stations. Earth itself." He turned to meet her gaze. "The Coalition has Earth under quarantine. They consider it a contaminated world, too primitive and dangerous for civilized species to visit. Even the void-touched won't follow us there." Zara stared at him. "You want to take me to a quarantined world? What kind of contamination are we talking about?" Marcus smiled grimly. "The worst kind, according to the galactic community. Uncontrolled human behavior, free will, the dangerous idea that every sentient being has value regardless of their species or status." As they changed course for Earth, dodging long-range scans from their pursuers, Marcus began to tell Zara about his homeworld. He spoke of cities that reached toward the sky, of oceans that stretched beyond the horizon, of billions of humans living their lives without permission from galactic authorities. "The Coalition thinks we're dangerous because we don't fit their neat categories," he explained. "We're not the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced. But we're persistent, and we have this annoying habit of doing the right thing even when it's inconvenient." Behind them, the void-touched ships fell further behind, unwilling to follow them into the Sol system's disputed territory. The Coalition forces would stop at the quarantine line, bound by treaties they couldn't afford to break. For the first time in days, Marcus allowed himself to relax. "You're taking me to a world of warriors," Zara said, understanding beginning to dawn in her eyes. "Not warriors," Marcus corrected. "Something more dangerous than that. We're a world of people who believe that helping someone in need isn't heroism. It's just what you do." As Earth grew larger on their view screen, its blue and white surface gleaming in the light of Sol, Marcus wondered what his people would make of a fallen angel. Then he remembered the countless refugees, outcasts, and freedom fighters Earth had sheltered over the years, and he smiled. They would do what humans always did when someone needed help. They would roll up their sleeves and get to work. The Earth defense grid activated the moment they crossed the heliopause, ancient but deadly satellites turning their sensors toward the approaching vessel. Marcus transmitted his identification codes and waited, knowing that human paranoia might be the one thing that could save them now. "Vessel Angels, rest. This is Luna Base Control," came a crisp voice over the comm. "You're carrying an unknown biosignature, and you've got half the galaxy chasing you. Explain yourself, Marcus." "Hey there, Sarah," Marcus replied, recognizing the voice of his old friend from the war. "Got a refugee situation here. Request permission to land at Denver Spaceport, and maybe scramble a few interceptors to discourage our unwanted followers." There was a long pause before Sarah's voice returned, warmer now but still cautious. "Copy that, Angel's Rest. Bringing you home. And Marcus? Next time you decide to poke the entire galactic community in the eye, maybe give us a heads up first." Zara watched in amazement as Earth's defensive fleet responded to the threat behind them. Human ships poured out of hidden bases on Luna and the asteroid belt, crude, angular vessels that looked like they had been built in someone's garage. Compared to the sleek coalition warships, they appeared primitive, almost comical. Then she saw them fight. The human ships moved like a pack of wolves, coordinating their attacks with an instinctive understanding that spoke of countless battles fought together. They didn't rely on superior firepower or advanced shielding. Instead, they used tactics that bordered on insanity, ramming enemy vessels, detonating their own ships to damage larger targets, fighting with a ferocity that shocked even the void touched. Sweet mother of Terra, Marcus breathed, watching the battle unfold on his screens. They're using the Yamamoto Protocol. What's that? Zara asked. Something we developed during the war with the Centauri Federation, Marcus explained. When you're outgunned and outnumbered, you do whatever it takes to win, even if it means sacrificing yourself for the mission. One by one, the pursuing ships fell back, unable to comprehend an enemy that valued victory over survival. The Void, touched for all their enhanced abilities, had never encountered a species that fought like cornered animals, even when they had the advantage. It was inefficient, wasteful, and completely terrifying. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, Zara got her first close look at humanity's homeworld. The cities sprawled across the continents like living organisms, growing and changing without any apparent plan. Massive structures rose from the ground like metal forests, while transportation networks wove between them in impossible complexity. "It's chaos," she whispered. "It's freedom," Marcus corrected. "No central planning, no species-wide government telling people where to live or what to build. Just 8 billion humans figuring it out as they go along." They landed at Denver Spaceport to find themselves surrounded by crowds of curious humans. News of their arrival had spread somehow, and people had come to see the fallen Nephilim warrior for themselves. Zara tensed, expecting hostility or fear, but what she saw in their faces was something else entirely. Curiosity, compassion, and an eagerness to help that she had never encountered in any other species. A medical team was waiting for them, led by a woman who introduced herself as Dr. Elena Vasquez. She examined Zara's injuries with professional competence, asking questions that showed a deep understanding of Nephilim physiology. "How do you know so much about my species?" Zara asked as the doctor worked to repair her damaged wing. "We make it our business to understand the people we help," Dr. Vasquez replied. "Earth has been a refuge for the galaxy's outcasts for decades now. Cytherian rebels, Centauri dissidents, Zephyrian conscientious objectors, we've treated them all. Learning about different biologies is part of the job." Over the following days, as Zara recovered from her injuries, she began to understand what made humans unique. They didn't judge her for her fall from grace or demand to know her crimes. They simply accepted that she needed help and provided it, asking for nothing in return. She met former coalition soldiers who had deserted rather than follow immoral orders, Void Swarm survivors who had found new purpose on Earth, and refugees from a dozen different wars who had been given sanctuary when their own governments abandoned them. All of them had stories of human kindness in the face of galactic indifference. "Your species is remarkable," she told Marcus one evening as they sat in a small cafe overlooking the Rocky Mountains. "But I don't understand why you risk so much for strangers." Marcus stirred his coffee thoughtfully. "There's an old human saying, 'There but for the grace of God go I.' It means that anyone can fall on hard times. Anyone can find themselves in need of help. Today it's you, tomorrow it might be me. We look out for each other because that's what makes us human. The Coalition sees that as weakness. The Coalition sees a lot of things as weakness that are actually strength." Marcus leaned back in his chair, his gaze distant. "Compassion, mercy, the willingness to sacrifice for others. They think these things make us soft. They don't understand that these are the qualities that let us punch above our weight class. As if to prove his point, news arrived the next day that Earth's intervention in the Rigel sector had prevented a massive void swarm incursion. Human ships had arrived at the last moment, turning a coalition retreat into a stunning victory. The official reports credited tactical innovation and unconventional strategies, but Zara knew the truth. Humans had won because they fought for something more than duty or profit. They fought for each other. The coalition's response was predictable. They demanded Earth surrender Zara immediately, threatening sanctions and military action if their demands weren't met. The human government's reply was equally predictable, a polite but firm refusal, accompanied by a detailed list of coalition war crimes and human offers to mediate peace negotiations with various rebel factions. They're actually using me as leverage, Zara realized, watching the diplomatic exchanges on the news feeds. My presence here gives them negotiating power with every dissident group in the galaxy. Smart, right? Marcus grinned. Nothing says we mean business like harboring the galaxy's most wanted fugitive and then offering to host peace talks, classic human diplomacy, turning a crisis into an opportunity. But Zara's presence on Earth had attracted more than diplomatic attention. Refugees and dissidents from across the galaxy began arriving in secret, drawn by rumors of a world where outcasts could find sanctuary. The human government welcomed them all, establishing integration programs and providing resources with a generosity that amazed even Zara. She found herself serving as an unofficial ambassador, helping newcomers adjust to human society while sharing her own knowledge of galactic politics and military strategy. It was a role she had never imagined for herself, but one that felt more meaningful than anything she had done as a coalition warrior. Months passed, and Zara's presence on Earth became an open secret throughout the galaxy. The coalition continued to demand her surrender, but their threats rang increasingly hollow. Earth's refugee population had grown into a formidable political force, and human ships had proven themselves in battle after battle against both void swarm incursions and coalition oppression. "You've started something here," Zara told Marcus one day, as they watched a group of young humans training with Zephyrian martial arts techniques learned from refugee instructors. "This isn't just about helping individuals anymore. You're building something new." "A coalition of the willing instead of the powerful," Marcus agreed. "A place where being different is an asset, not a liability. Where helping someone doesn't require a cost-benefit analysis." The turning point came when the Centauri Federation formally requested Earth's assistance in negotiating a ceasefire with their rebellious colonies. Other governments followed suit, drawn by humanity's reputation for fair dealing and their growing military capabilities. Within a year, Earth had become an unofficial mediator for conflicts throughout the galaxy. Zara watched it all with wonder and growing pride. She had fallen from grace as a coalition warrior, but she had found something better on Earth, a chance to help build a future where mercy wasn't seen as weakness, where justice didn't depend on species or status, and where everyone deserved a second chance. Standing on the observation deck of the newly constructed diplomatic station orbiting Earth, she spread her healed wings wide and smiled. She was no longer a coalition warrior or a hunted fugitive. She was something new, a guardian of humanity's vision for the galaxy, a living symbol that redemption was possible for anyone willing to fight for what was right. Marcus joined her at the viewport, his hair now completely gray, but his eyes still bright with the fire that had driven him to save her. "Any regrets?" he asked. Zara looked out at the bustling traffic of ships around Earth. Human vessels mixing with craft from dozens of species, all carrying the hope of a better future. She thought of the coalition's cold efficiency, the endless wars fought for abstract principles, the casual cruelty that had once seemed normal. "Only that it took me so long to fall," she replied. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out what really matters. In the end, it hadn't been the strongest or the most advanced species that changed the galaxy. It had been the stubborn, chaotic, impossibly optimistic humans who refused to believe that anyone was beyond saving. They had taught her that true strength wasn't measured in weapons or political power, but in the courage to do what was right, even when the entire galaxy told you it was wrong. And for a fallen angel who had lost everything, that lesson was worth more than all the glory she had ever known.